So just noting that this is the first meeting, so we are supposed to, if we have quorum, elect a chair. So I guess first, so you know, because you can't see the room, we have, who do we have here? We have Trish, Peter, Gord and Gina, and myself. Richard Bertram is recovering from surgery, so it's just us. But we have a quorum, so now we're finally connected. I guess I should call the meeting to order and then call for nominations. So let's call the meeting to order at 2:13 on my device here. And so for 2025, or at least interim chair for the commission for this year, open to nominations for commission chair.
I nominate Gina.
Gina, will you continue
I'll second
to stand?
that.
I will. I'll
Okay,
continue.
and the second time, calling for nominations for commission chair. And the third and final time. If we don't have an election, we can't have speeches, we won't have ballots.
Oh, I'm so prepared.
Okay, so the third and final time, we have one nomination, Gina Medhurst, so you are elected by acclamation as EC chair. We don't need a motion.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much.
This railroad runs so well, and I was gonna let Gina at least see. Can you see her?
I can.
And then see you.
Yes.
All yours.
Thank you.
I'm gonna just, sorry to interrupt you, Gina. I'm just gonna hit record if everyone's okay with that.
Yes.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
Okay. Traditional lands acknowledgement. We acknowledge and respect the Indigenous peoples within those traditional lands we are meeting today. The agenda, adoption of the agenda. It was sent around for today. All good? Yes?
Yep.
Yep, move adoption
Move
as
it.
move as circulated.
Yep. And approval of the minutes from the December 13th meeting.
Or we just received them. They went to the board for approval, so yeah.
Right.
Just see.
We
the same
just
changes.
received them.
Yeah, unless there was errors.
Why am I having a problem today? With those changes from Gord, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Gordon
Well, the
made
changes were
From
Minor
previous, from
corrections
September.
from the
from
previous.
the one before.
Yeah,
And that went to the board as
That
well.
went to the
so
board as
official
well.
minutes are up to date.
Yeah, good.
yeah, okay. Under new business. So I wasn't quite sure, and Robin, thank you for having, I think it was Christine that sent that little blurb to me, but wasn't quite sure what sort of capacity we could even have a discussion around the Kootenay Lake Ferry strike, let alone can we write a letter of encouragement to swiftly agree at the bargaining table? Like there's all those, without being, we have to be careful how we stand operating under the RDCK, right? Yeah. Thank you.
Can I suggest, I think what Christine would have forwarded it at the last board meeting, we passed two resolutions, one to write a letter just to the Minister of Transportation and Transit now. It's not Modi, it's Watt. And that's Minister Farnworth. And then another letter to the Premier and Minister of Transportation to state that we have concerns that they haven't thought through adequately essential service.
Right.
So to say medical appointments or education of other than post-secondary are essential is missing the point. Would help raise the concern is when they threatened limited service on the cable ferries, more people's voices said, well, what about me being able to work? Well, that's an impact for us. It is an economic impact. Economic impacts become social impacts because if you can't work, can't pay your rent, or can't pay your mortgage, financial stress, in worst case, it harms the entire family and breaks families up. I mean, it's a real thing.
It's that
And we've
simple.
just seen the touch of it, of the handful of people back and forth, but we will see the economic pressure to a large degree once it starts to really cause a rerouting of traffic, which, is a trickle right now. And we've seen an increase in traffic. We even saw one overload on the 430 so far. So traffic will pick up. So that is, I think, the realm where we're entitled to, maybe we can make inquiries, ask the Chamber of Commerce, or seek input from different businesses on, impact so far on their business volume, and maybe to comment on when the impact will stress them to the point of either delay seasonal opening or hiring staff, or be unable to make payments. Most businesses have to have a buffer to get it through the winter, right? You don't make enough money to cash flow in the winter to carry your overhead.
Yeah, all the money is in the bank by October to keep you floating until April or March or whatever,
So I guess that's the area we could have a discussion, and whether we'd want to go about it, try and gather information right now or input. Hold a meeting in a month. The strike could well go a couple months, could go 6 months. We have no idea. So is it worth trying to get, or
you never know.
Could be short. Is it worth doing, and where to start?
Yeah. Well, it's my understanding that the Cuba Lake Chamber did send out a survey.
Yes, they did.
I guess we could reach out to the chamber to see what sort of feedback they've gotten from that, or what the response has been.
Yeah, the survey, I don't know if you saw it.
I saw it.
It was pretty light. I mean,
Yeah, it was really light.
it didn't give you a lot of opportunity to really kind of, you could put some comments in at the end, but I didn't get the sense that it was wanting to inquire as to what you would predict this or how you would predict this impacting your plans and your preparations for a busier season. Yeah. For us as accommodators, with the threat of the ferry strike, our bookings went to zero and everything was canceled. And we haven't had anything since. Any inquiries have not resulted in bookings. And so it's like a net zero. And I'm sure other businesses are seeing the same thing.
Well, I know the artisans of Crawford Bay, as well as probably the Hub, and they're like, it's going to be like COVID.
Yeah.
Right? Or worse than.
Well, or fire seasons have done this to us before, where we'll see accommodations drop and then restaurants suffer, etc. But this is more severe. We have examples of, even back to when Tina and I ran the B&B, we had times where people phoned and apologized and said, we just can't come there, it's not healthy.
Yeah.
And so we've seen this. I don't know if it's worth the effort to try and dig back to those years. COVID's a more extensive example.
It's extensive,
right?
and
this is more like worse than a bad fire season.
Yeah.
Where people just are going to avoid the place like the plague.
COVID is like sort of the tip of the iceberg, because at least people were still allowed to travel regionally when it was like ultimately locked down, right? And you could still eat at a restaurant, but you had to get there, but that's the key thing. Yeah.
So did the chamber just send out to signed up members?
Yes.
Because what's that, 30, 40?
Yeah.
That's not all the businesses.
Yeah, they did. And it should have been a public survey for businesses. And that should have been the first question. And again, data collection for the Chamber of Commerce is, please name your business, right? Because you want it to only come from businesses as a Chamber of Commerce. And you can have, because then all of a sudden you end up getting all these personal stuff that they're trying to sort of filter out of, right? But when it comes to economic impact, but like Glenn and Aaron, they stopped hauling logs. They stopped taking on any log contracts.
Yeah, because you can't.
Because they risk it, the amount of expense it was for just to even go over the summit. So, they laid off Jurgen, and so Jurgen's out.
Yeah, there's
all those sort of pieces. Yeah. I don't know how much it's been affecting you, Peter,
Not so much, really. All
Yeah.
of our subs are from Creston
from
or
Creston,
local.
right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do much. I only take the ferry about 4 times a year, so
Yeah,
it doesn't. We're lucky that it doesn't affect us too much. But
too much.
the community has my support for whatever that's
For sure.
worth. You know.
Yeah. So maybe reaching out to the Chamber of inquiring with the Chamber of Commerce, I guess, and the first question is wondering what, ensuring, because I'm on the Chamber's general mailing list personally, and I didn't get anything, but I got it through Kokanee because we're a member,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So,
I'm not a member anymore because I've
yeah,
gone into retirement
Yeah.
and I'm dormant on the
Yeah.
renovation side, so yeah, I haven't seen anything. So the reach was very limited, I'm sure. So
Yeah.
you can ask the chamber if they're going to do something more extensive
yeah,
or repeat. Sometimes it takes a repeat to even
Well,
get people to pay attention. Or do we do something, draft something, and ask for a mail out or something to be sent out under the regional district?
Hmm.
It would have a budgetary impact. We're going to talk budget later. But I mean, that's another option.
yeah, just I think,
I testified at the
That's
labor
right.
board hearing, and one of the elements of what I presented was, FYI, this is the fabric of this community, and this is the demographics. This is how the school struggles. This is how we're trying to attract residents. We want to bring in younger families, and all of things like the ferry strike go completely counter to that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're hurting us before we can even really get going. And
Longer term impact.
yeah, and I mean, these guys are all sitting in law offices in Vancouver. I have no idea. And so to what extent did that actually have an impact? I don't know, but certainly that's, I think, a message that needs to be conveyed.
well, a lot of sort of the promotion and advertising is take the longest free ferry ride in the world. Oh, you gotta take the longest ferry ride in the world,
Sit in the slowest moving parking lot in the world.
Yeah, there's so many pieces to it. I'm sorry to hear that, Gord, because Kokanee is like, we're 40% more booked than we were last time at this year.
But you
But
see,
our clientele
you are a
comes from-
destination.
Yeah.
So we have people that come and they want to
Pass through.
explore the area.
I know.
What do you mean I can't go to Ainsworth?
Yeah, yeah, for sure, different clientele. Yeah. Yeah. What do you mean we can't go to Ainsworth and up to Caslow for the day and then come back and, because you tend to have your guests they hub out their,
Yeah, exactly.
their days, right?
Yeah.
Versus, everybody shows up here and parks their cars. Yeah.
Well, and that's where people have not followed through with bookings, when you kind of say, well, you're probably going to be restricted to activities on this side of the lake.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, what's open in terms of restaurants? Well, there's this and there's this, and it's limited.
Yeah.
And then you hear a long pause, and then let us get back to you, and you don't hear anything.
Yeah. 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 Fair enough. No.
So of approaches, I mean, the easiest is to ask the Chamber of Commerce what the results so far are, if they would be willing to expand the survey and repeat.
Yeah.
Another option is to go to the Glade and the Harrop groups. They said they don't want to share their legal person. The one, Harrop Proctor, has a legal person they don't want to share.
Right.
But we can ask them if they're doing impact surveys. Or another option, and we can do this independent of the others, is we just write up what we think are the relevant questions. So if one of us wants to start and write down what are the 6 top of mind things, and then share it, and we say, okay, these are things that we think need to be asked. When is your normal seasonal start? When do you have to commit to hiring staff, which is not the day you open?
No.
It is, I don't know, 2 months ahead. I don't know how long ahead.
Well, yeah. If you're
kind of
seasonal
now,
staff,
right?
a lot of the seasonal staff go from a winter season to a summer season. So they're looking, now as to what they're going to be doing. And,
So the progression of questions that show what are the impacts from today onward, not just, do you think you're going to be broke by September or go to business in the summer?
Yeah.
I think there's enough people here that kind of have a handle on how things work here. We could start a more robust survey. For me, it would help to see the chamber survey. I haven't seen it.
Okay.
And then think, if we want, we can say we want it on regional district letterhead We can use eShore.life contact list, even though it's out of date.
Mm-hmm.
Run through it manually out of there's 500 data points, whittle down to 300. But the 300, 100 of them are businesses. Whether they like it or not, they can get a regional district letter saying, "Hi, we are concerned for the short and long-term welfare of our community at large. We please ask you to respond to these questions so we can put it forward to government and the LRB
Yeah,
and have that more comprehensive list of questions."
that's a good idea, I think.
And that wouldn't stop us from asking the chamber what they're up to, but if we want to do something in the short term,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be proactive.
Can it be done like through through SurveyMonkey though, instead of as a letter and then somebody, you have to,
Oh, potentially, I guess.
well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying is like, I mean, there's that database and there's a
Yeah.
email address
Hey,
is through the
I got all this
eShore,
gray
right?
hair. That's why I
I
said
know.
mail out.
I was like,
I don't know,
is that
whatever that thing
email?
is.
Digital mail.
Yeah, whatever that thing is.
It's
Email
much
out.
easier to do any of those sort of stuff, and you do it really simple. You know, you can provide at the bottom, you know, anything else you would like to offer us, but you
Yeah.
do ABC or
Yeah.
yes or no or
And then
1, 2,
it
3.
tabulates.
Yeah, and then you're not having to figure out how to get them all back and hope like you don't have to buy stamps anymore.
Yeah, so whatever SurveyMonkey.
yeah,
Now you're treading into dangerous water because you obviously know how to
I do.
do one. Some of us.
And
Are
Google Docs
conveniently
survey. Yeah, I do.
No, I
SurveyMonkey
mean,
is
it's,
free for up to 10 questions too.
10 questions.
Yeah. So you can dial, I mean, but you really only need 5 or 6 to really dial in, and then you just leave a dialogue box at the bottom.
For people to ask, yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, so impact so far, coming season,
Yeah.
if there's a shift in business activity or sort of a ramp up or startup date, when you need to know for hiring people, other preparations, yeah, I think that's, we say 5 or 6
Opening
questions.
delays.
And then maybe you launch that regardless of what anyone else is doing.
Well, yeah.
Staffing, about 50% of my staff was traveling from Nelson or Balfour over in the summer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big shift, especially if it's key, like sort of kitchen staff, chefs and stuff, I guess are the hardest to get. That could shut you down for half a day. Can't cover it.
This is why we closed earlier this year, because the looming ferry strike, my manager was in Balfour, and her not getting over would be,
It makes sense.
no. So,
Too stressful.
Yeah,
For
yeah.
everyone.
The vote was August 27th or something, wasn't it? Yeah, the vote was in August, so it's uncertain from then on.
Yeah. Current financial.
You have to be careful about asking people. You could ask if they want to volunteer any information about business continuity. Is that the
Yeah.
not continuity? We were told most businesses should have 3 months plus cash. It's not-
Oh, yeah.
called
It's like the
business
rainy
continuity.
day fund, basically,
Yeah,
right?
accountants will say
Everyone
if you
should,
don't
not
have
just
three, if you
business.
can't cover 3 months of your payments, then
Yeah.
you know, you could have a minor fire in the kitchen, it could go down 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to be able to cover 3 months. We asked what the regional district should have. I mean, 3 months, it could be 6 months, depending on which business is, right? But there's recommendations on, it's not, I don't think, there's another phrase, not just business continuity, but you have to have a fund. You know, you could ask people if they're
Well, it's
willing to share.
it's an operating contingency fund, really.
Operating reserve, I guess is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
Operating reserve.
But again, like, you know, a lot of the businesses that are seasonal, you sort of get pull in as much as you can during
Yeah.
the operating season, because you know it's going to be 5 months till
Yeah, so
you
it's,
get another tasty bite of dollars in your bank account, right?
so it's a timing to begin to
But
replenish.
so all of a sudden it's like now you're looking at 8 months instead of 5 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, when was our accountant out of Nelson there for the regional district, he was telling us maybe you should have 3 to 6 months of operational reserve. All I can say is, are you kidding? We're government. You can not justify, we already have reserves for all kinds of things. We just can't go and tax people. We tax 60 million a year. Let's tax another 15 million or 30 million and put it somewhere, because you guys can't use that money. Let's just take more, put it to the side. If we have a bad year, we can make it up.
It's going to be time dependent too, because our businesses are going to be fine in October to weather 3 months.
Yeah.
Come April.
It's gonna be really
Yeah, it's that
It's
cycle of
getting tighter.
when to replenish. Yeah, when your operating reserve has been diminished or depleted.
Yeah.
Try and get that critical timing to give the message to government and LRB and the LRP. This is critical for hiring, and this is physically critical for being able to turn the lights on.
Well, and it can even be sort of stated as that fact, the similar fact where as seasonal businesses and tourist season businesses, we operate with ensuring that we're able to operate with zero incoming funds for like from October to April, really, end of April. You don't, I mean, you kind of start to get a trickle in April, but it's May when things, you know, we stand, that's how our standard business practice is. That's how you operate here. But all of a sudden, we're looking at no funds coming, not knowing any funds are coming in. Will we have to close our businesses for good? Will we have to declare bankruptcy? There's all those questions.
So thinking of the audience of the survey results, start with the preamble so that whoever reads the survey results understands why it's different having an operating reserve here instead of Vancouver.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because that's sort of our standard practice.
And
or you just eat rice and beans for all winter long. You ain't going to Mexico.
Are we a 3-season business community, or are we a 2.5? Well, some springs nobody comes if the roads are shitty, and some falls nobody comes if the fires are bad. So we're kind of a.
Well, it's generally, so I think I would guess around like April 1st to October. Till Thanksgiving. So we've sort of standardly done.
That's when the golf course opens.
No, like I'm thinking of more of the artisans of Crawford Bay, because we are at a different little pocket of demographic when it comes to the customer base, right? But artisans of Crawford Bay, it's all take the ferry, you know, they do the loopy stuff, right?
Yeah, and you'll find you get people, we used to get people with traveling without kids. September,
it's the dinks and
October, right to the end of October. It's great weather. It's beautiful here. So a lot of people were coming
less people.
Well into the fall.
You know.
No traffic. No worries about congestion anymore. It's when it's nice weather. The fall is
it's beautiful.
You got a lot of extra money. Why would you compete with when the school kids are out? If you want to take your time and travel, wait.
Okay. All right. So you have some of those questions written down there, Gary? I've got some too.
If we compare notes, we can come up with something by email, I guess, to start.
We can throw it in an email.
Richard can look at it too, of course.
For sure. Okay. Great. Do we have anything? I mean, I guess we could talk hours, but we're probably not allowed to, so we'll just continue on.
Budgets next.
Budgets, Gary.
I have to look at. Should be open here. So, for Paul's notes, because some numbers aren't finalized yet. First, I did open this Service 107 is our economic development. Service 108 is Areas BC and Town of Creston. And just for comparison, in 2024, Service 108 taxed 316,000. They didn't need that. They've been building reserve funds, which they have to come up with themselves, what they're going to end up doing with it. And we tax like 40,000. So we're going to triple ours because there's 3 of them, 3 groups. It'd be 120. So we're taxing at a lower rate. We know we are. We're doing different things. So I just wanted to go through what's the other area doing, because every year we're asked, well, do we want to do things differently? So this Service Creston Valley spends, it funds the visitor info center and the physician recruitment, for example. So those two are some $140,000 or a little more between those two. They also pay then rent on the building to the owner of the day, and the building's changed hands, as another 30. So that 140 becomes about $170,000 a year for the visitor info center, and there's always more. Now, we used to partner, Kootenay Lake Chamber and the Creston Chamber. We had an extra trailer at the border crossing. We used the info center in town. Didn't used to be there. It was in the school district offices across from the 7-Eleven. There's an economic development office there at the same time. Mike was in it for a little while.
Yep.
And then, of course, we had the volunteer booth here that was manned way back. We did it for less money than we're looking at now because it was almost all volunteer. Recent conversations, and I can only go so far down this path as well. The Chamber of Commerce in Creston is more robust. They seem to be more confident. We're talking to the one up here. They would like to look at taking on maybe the Visitor Info Center again. So let's just throw it out there. Now, Visitor Info Center today is run through the regional district. We have staffing implications. Any further conversations are elsewhere, but it's a concept. What if? What if they were to get into that? And then, of course, what if Area A was to participate more heavily? But it hasn't gone anywhere solid. That's just kind of floating out there. But it's a big ticket item. So that 170,000 also includes physician recruitment. I note with interest that in the East Kootenay, the whole regional district would contribute towards physician recruitment. They would give Interior Health's own staff extra money to travel and move a little further beyond where they might normally be able to afford to with what they, their provincial allocation allows within Interior Health's budget, to go to Ontario or go to other states or go wherever to meet with people at convention or different things or graduating classes and say, hey, here's the wonderful lifestyle. You can come to the East Kootenay or wherever and ski, enjoy lakes, fishing. Creston has done that similar, parallel to Interior Health's recruitment, by hiring someone on a consultant basis and doing it kind of over and above, sort of like a super good host type approach. There's conversations about is that cost effective. Some people say, oh, you need somebody who lives in your community that will meet them in the airport in Cranbrook and come on in, you want to be positioned here, we're going to show you what the rec center looks like, take you golfing, your family be happy, your significant other, she's the physician, he can get a job if maybe he wants to harvest timber, whatever his skills and talents are, that they can really understand the area. We've been asked off and on to get into the physician recruitment. These started to say they denied Interior Health a contribution this year. They said Interior Health just needs to do this themselves. And I've asked the Creston Valley why Interior Health doesn't have in their budget someone who lives in Creston and someone who lives in Cranbrook and someone who lives in the Alford and somebody who lives in Grand Forks doing this, right? Like, what are they not doing? But these conversations being held, none of that's in our budget right now. Right. Imagine Kootenay is in our budget. It stayed the same. It's $2,500 a year is our share. Economic Action Partnership remains in our budget. It's right now the 3-year contract we had with Kootenay Employment Services was coming up for renewal. As it was coming up for renewal, chambers were saying, oh, we could do some of that stuff that Economic Action Partnership does, like signage and stuff. We used to do it as chambers. That's how we got these little, cute little blue and white signs.
Yeah.
And then the Creston Tourism Society said, oh, we can do this stuff. You don't need to do it through the Employment Services. A couple of 5 years ago, they weren't able or ready to do that. So there could be a shift there. But that allocation, our commitment towards Economic Action Partnership is about $25,600. We signed a 6-month extension with KES instead of a full year or multi-year,
Right.
to give everybody a chance to tell us who could do something different or better. But right now we got 25.5 plus 2.5 is 28,000 odd committed for 2025. We've got about a $10,000 commitment to leverage next geothermal.
Sorry, what are we getting out of the EAP on the East Shore?
Okay, we have gone over it before. The signage program leveraged $1 million, and some of the signs here would be worth $300,000.
I haven't haven't seen any of it.
Because none of it's done yet, because they're painfully going through making
The
sure
process
everybody
of-
approves this and that.
Just asking.
I wasn't really prepared to do a
Sorry.
run through that.
No, it's fine. I would like, if we've gone over it before, just a quick recap now I
Yeah.
remember. Thank you.
There's been a lot of networking things going on. I want whoever is willing to sit at the AAP quarterly meetings to come with their thoughts.
Yeah.
Look through that big chart of things that we set out 5-6
Years
years
ago, I know.
that Stronger Together.
Yep,
And signage is one, and tourism helping, direction, wayfinding, I guess is the word,
Yeah.
that they finally moved to, and they found $1 million.
Mhm.
They also started helping with childcare and housing. Their childcare efforts have extended to Crawford Bay. Crawford Bay has a proponent
Yeah.
who would like to get full on childcare.
that's right.
I can't tell you the details of who
That's
talked to
fine.
where, when. I can tell you I have ongoing discussions, negotiations with School District 8
Okay,
about the who has priority use of the space in the school, and that's a bit of an administrative tangle that we will sort out
fair enough.
this spring.
Yep.
But those are some of the types of projects.
That's all I needed was a reminder as to what those
So,
movements were.
and their next batch of projects is a little bit on hold, because where we're going to have Crested Valley Tourism and or Nelson Kootenai Lake Tourism take a bite. Do they need an enhanced budget? Are they good? Are we going to shift how the info booth works? Is it going to impact you?
Okay.
So, and this 6 months goes till June.
Right,
6 months
okay.
is up.
No, fair enough. Thank you.
So,
Sorry for
no, it's a totally valid question. It's just, I could have had a sheet and I wasn't even
Yeah, it's
thinking of
okay.
having that on hand.
No worries.
So the other thing that's been a bit of a surprise and a bit of a scramble, we had a large amount of money passed to Area A through S107 for internet improvements.
Yeah,
The federal and provincial ministers responsible wanted to do a joint announcement 3-4 years ago, and they didn't. And I was unable to tell the groups that might use that money for more than a year and a half. I didn't tell them we had the money, like $500,000. So we finally were able to tell groups we had the money. The groups were in a different position. Bluebell didn't want it for the quacks. We talked about this. Castle Infonet said they could kind of take the hand for East Shore Internet Society to help them do direct buried fiber. It's in the ground in a lot of places. It's not done. To get things to transition to the groups that have started spending money, we brought in regional district project management staff just to get a few things pulled together. What has not been showing up on my quarterly financial reports is the cost of project management staff. So there's accrued almost just over $10,000. Project management costs, it's created a deficit in the service because it was coded through a sort of a generic account.
right.
We're also still holding money. I think it's $190,000 to complete the rest of the work.
Yeah,
And estimate for that, so there's $10K project management passed prior, and there's an estimate of another $5,000 or so to wrap everything. Because we have to report out on the federal and provincial money. This was primarily
there's a-
CRTC money.
182 is left.
So that's $15,000 that I wasn't expecting to be that order of magnitude. 10 of it passed and the rest into the future, except if you run a deficit, you have to make it up under provincial rules the next year. So if you run a 2024 deficit, we must show how we're going to make it up in 2025.
2025.
And smooth it out and say, we'll pay it off in 10 years.
Yeah,
So what I asked Stuart to do, because he's just been feeding me these numbers back and forth, some of it through the weekend to get up to date, he's going to have our project management group write a $10,000 community works fund, gas tax, and it sounds like it's eligible, they keep opening up, to be our contribution to cover otherwise ineligible government costs. That ineligible for the CRTC fund to pay, but can be eligible for the gas tax fund to pay. So gas tax money that comes from having a population from Windell to Greendale. So it's kind of smoothing out that cost over everybody. And if we were to put 10K in the EDC budget, it'd be the same people paying. The reason I want it in gas tax is we're holding a balance. So we've already the feds have taken your money,
Mhm.
put it in their pocket, held it for a few years, now they put it in our pocket. So I don't want to take another 10,000 out of your pocket. If we can, after it's written up and if it looks eligible, maybe I'll ask them to bump it to 15 and cover all the past and the future. But that's the one thought, is to try and get that money shunted into a different pot where the money already exists. Because if we don't do that kind of thing, it's looking like we need $64,865 this year, as opposed to the 40 last year, which would be a $25,000 boost in taxes. So we've talked this way before. I said we don't have a lot of money to do things.
Mhm.
Whatever comes to mind is being relevant. So if we can take 10 to 15 off that, maybe we'll get it down to around 50,000 taxation, which should still be a $10,000 lift. And because we've allocated pretty well all the money we would have had for project funding to the geothermal phase
Yeah.
5 business analysis, I guess it is,
Yeah.
we would have no other money. So Thursday, we'll have a conversation Thursday morning, Crescent Valley Services, draft budget review, this and many others. And then on 2 weeks after that, I guess, we'll have a budget meeting with the whole board where we'll start to see the impact of all the service costs everywhere. And then also the shift of value of houses. So I thought I'd have some of that, but now I don't. But I did have a look at across the Kootenays writ large. You can go on the BC assessment site. Elkford is up 11% or something, whereas some small villages in West Kootenay are down 1%. That's normal. You can see easily like a 10% shift. We don't know yet. Has Area A climbed higher than Crested or areas B or C? Are we higher climb in value than all of Central Kootenay? I know from Dad's assessment of Crawford Bay, it's gone up quite a bit.
Yep, ours
My
did
assessment in
too.
Boswell didn't go up as much. Yours is probably, I don't know, 4 or 5%, or do you know?
You know, probably 7% between the three different properties.
And Crawford Bay, probably a higher lift.
Yeah, higher
than
Crawford Bay.
Yeah.
Boswell, that's
A lot
what I've
of
seen asking.
Buying
a
and
few.
selling in the
Yeah.
Crawford Bay area this last year.
So the burden will shift. What's most important to most of our services is did we climb faster than Nelson, Castlegar, Creston? Because they're the other big contributors. So as a snapshot, I guess, what I'm going to try and do is deflect 10 to 15,000 of this into a pot of money that you were already taxed for years ago. And wait and see. And then whether it's by email or not, after we see all the numbers on the sheet, I'd like to ask you guys again, do we think we need to hold some other money for other projects, or is there something else we should consider?
Okay. Great.
So I don't think we need to make a recommendation on budget.
Not yet.
No,
Yeah.
But
More data.
just to recap, Gary, we have the AP, that was around 26,000.
Yep.
The geothermal, that was around 10,000.
10. Imagine Kootenay, 2.5.
2.5.
We pay a staff cost of 1,000-ish between salaries, benefits, whatever.
Okay.
We have a fixed insurance cost. All services pay insurance, even though we don't have, I guess we kind of have infrastructure. We have staff working on that fiber optic, but it's allocated across it. So this insurance is $500.
Yeah.
We allow $200 for rentals. I don't think KSR has billed us, but
No.
there's a couple $100 left for rentals. And then there's a general admin fee. Now, the general admin fee is sort of tagged to your whole entire business model. And ours has climbed about $2,000 because we're holding $500,000 of government grants. And that's created invoicing to Caslo Infinite, East Shore,
Yeah.
worksheets and extra stuff. I don't know who's procured something in between. When we stop doing that kind of business, when that grant is paid out and work's done, our general admin should drop because we're not burdening finance and everyone else as much.
Right.
But that's about $2,000.
So that kind of sundries like the insurance and staff and
Yeah, staff would be 1,100, insurance 525 or say 5. Rentals 200. The grants are confusing here because there are a couple lines between them. It's got contracted I can't unplug that. I can unplug this. Easiest to get just. But contracted services is Kootenai employment, right? The grants, 17, 10 is geothermal, 2.5 is Imagine Kootenai. It's not quite a contract. And the other, that might be where some of our costs to cover project manage, the 5,000, to cover our share of implementing that grant fund. And then I don't know if there's another line item in there that looks unique.
Transfer to other services, and then there's a general agreement.
Which should go down once we're not doing as much business, unless we do something else that's more impactful. So this is available on the Creston Valley Services Committee agenda. So if you want on the regional district homepage, you can find.
Well, you sent it. It was sent to us as well.
Yeah, it should all be.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, as they say, will, because the two services overlap, we'll have that conversation Thursday morning. You can probably wouldn't find it that exciting. You can zoom in Thursday morning. I'll be in Creston for the meeting. I don't know how far we're going to get because the big shifts of chamber and tourism societies want to do stuff. That's the way bigger
It's
thing.
great to see that
Yeah.
they're sort of got the momentum again. They're like offering, was the chamber offering, what were they offering? They had one of the local businesses offering basic human resource, like how to properly treat your stuff. You know, as a business owner, as a manager, yeah, there was like a 1 hour course or something like that, right? Where, yeah, it's like, oh my God, yay! Yeah, so the chamber has been, you kicked it into high gear down there. It's great to see. Okay, so I guess we'll just wait again till the next meeting for
Yeah, I
more
was
info.
hoping
Unless we want to attend a Zoom on Thursday morning.
Well, yeah, we won't have hard numbers.
No,
Thursday, we're going to have airport, library, huge numbers of things. Who said like a 50% request for increase on one of those on a fairly large service. We're not going to make decisions Thursday. Like you can't. You have to look at all the other factors.
Yeah.
Are we taking on more extra cost just because? Or has there real growth?
Yeah.
Homes that you build or subdivisions, we've had an uptick in subdivisions. That creates more wealth to share amongst Area A. It doesn't have to share anywhere else. So there's a real growth aspect to it.
Yeah.
But then there's a market pressure. We find the widest swing is in market pressure. Like you never get 10% growth in tax base because of subdivisions, new houses and buildings, unless you're a village and somebody drops an apartment complex in it. Then,
Yeah.
or they close a sawmill and you get a 20 or 30% drop, like slow can.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see the other shift. I'd like to see all the staffing requests and that stuff, and then come back with sort of bottom line.
All right. To be continued.
Yeah.
Thanks, Gary. Well, business 7.1. Gord. If your funding request.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you guys have the package.
We did put the 10,000 through though.
We did. I think this was more of just
Recap.
making sure
Yeah.
all the
Okay.
I's were dotted and T's were crossed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the money's been received, but anyhow, we're still moving forward. We put together a job posting with Selkirk for the two students, and that was just finalized this morning, and it's getting posted and sent out. I had a really interesting conversation yesterday with the Cascade Institute, and they're affiliated with a group out of University of Victoria, and the acronym is ACET, which I believe stands for Accelerating Community Energy Transition.
I see that on FCM. I was going to forward that later.
Yeah. So anyhow, the backstory is they received like $86 million from the federal government last year, and they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do with it. Anyhow,
Darn it.
Cascade have received $9 million of that, and it pays a good chunk of their research costs. Anyhow, during the conversation, Emily from the Cascade Institute was telling us that speculators are going around and tying up the geothermal rights underneath municipalities in Alberta on spec.
Huh?
And one of the things we've been concerned about is just the speculators and, you know, the work we've done, and God forbid someone comes in and tries to scoop you. And, you know, I thought about that last night, and I was chatting with Maggie about it this morning, and I sent Emily an email, and I just said, what about the idea of ACET backstopping our geothermal permit acquisition? And I expanded on that and gave her some rationale, and got a response from her just before I came over here, and she said she thinks it's a great idea, and she's going to pitch it to her team and see where it goes. But that would help us with certainty move it forward and then put in the permit request, because it takes 9 to 12 months to get it through. And we've held off on initiating it until we knew we could follow through. And so if we can get some support from a group like ACET, it would.
Will they do the application?
No, we would do it.
Okay, because this is the one I flagged for you. Applications are open until February 21st. Short window up to $200,000 in funding for 2-year peer learning program. This is Accelerating Community Energy Systems Funded Learning Program is part of that overall program.
Okay.
So there's a.
If you could send me that
Yeah,
link.
I haven't forwarded yet. Maybe I should just forward it here. Yeah, that's the one I was looking at that made sense that if it's there, it's forward here. It's 3/4 way down the article.
Okay.
I'll send it right now.
But one of Emily's Cascade team members actually sits on the committee or commission or board or whatever it is for ACET, and the reviews, and they have put our project on the radar. Last fall they did, and so fingers crossed something comes of it. But in the meantime, we're kind of waiting to hear if we were successful with REDIP, and we won't know until the end of February.
Right. Okay. That sounds
Turn it that way. I'm
exciting.
going to turn this one.
So that is essentially securing your geothermal rights to the property you are, your studies.
Basically, the geothermal permit requirements are only if you encounter fluids warmer than 80 degrees Celsius. Under 80, you don't need a geothermal permit. You would operate under the Water Resource Act. But with a geothermal permit, underneath that, you would any exploration activities that you did, if you wanted to drill some wells, you needed to construct a surface lease, all of that would be done under the permit. And so you really don't want to move any of that forward until you have the permit in place. Because part of what you do when you submit a bid for a permit is there's an acquisition price, and then there's a work program commitment. And you don't want to be spending money beforehand that you can get credit for later. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg.
It's like mineral rights.
Yeah. And so that's why we really would like to get that permit in place, at least one, and then the others can kind of come with time, but we need to kind of move that forward.
So you can credit all that work you've done against the.
No, there's no, you can't
Not retroactive.
retroactively,
work you do.
but any new work. Yeah.
The micro hydro had that problem in this area. We're in a public meeting, but Janet, we know who that is. Her son was in a company that he knew that there were some 500 applications in the Kootenays for water rights for micro hydro. They never built anything. They just wanted to flip them, charge money. Because they could make the application for like a few $100.
Yeah.
Hold it. Yeah. And so they expired. The 2016 Water Modernization Act, I think, like most of those out, they were held for a long time by speculators. Not to say speculation, after this meeting, I'm heading to Creston this evening. There's going to be a advisory planning meeting in Area B for a wind power application for it's a license for an investigation. They want to set up 5 towers, or 1 to 200 foot, with anemometer and also a LiDAR. I'm not quite sure how to use a LiDAR for wind. They watch clouds at high elevation, but this is a LiDAR aspect to it. But there's an application for it's come as a provincial referral to local government for wind energy on the Iron Mountain Range up the east side of Arrow Creek,
Yeah.
which doesn't quite touch Area A, but I'm interested because the ridge on our side, because the west side of Arrow Creek is Area A up to you get almost to Q, whatever the park up there, or Wooden Shoe Lake. There's a little jog in it where they decided to switch from one range to another. But on the west side of Arrow, the ridge is higher. And I thought weather patterns were steadier as you get to Cooney Lake, like steady wind. But it out and then cross the creek with a transmission line loop all the way around. But I'm just curious to see where that's going to go through. Because there's logging roads on that side. You can't get up from the Windle side unless you go through the community forest, but the watershed. But there's a lot of roads on the other side. Anyway, I expect we're going to see more. This is in preparation for BC Hydro call for power. We're going to see a lot more of these. And Fortis, as you know, they just did one and there'll be more. Yeah, it's wise, I guess.
So apparently 8 of the 9 projects that were approved by BC Hydro had Indigenous partners. I sat in on a energy transition and Indigenous economics webinar this week, which was pretty interesting. So, yeah, it took about 4 pages of notes. But But yeah, unless you had any questions, that's all I had for an update.
Did Rideau get
the drone survey didn't happen.
They didn't get the parachute.
No, because again, we were trying to get it all done before Christmas, and then the drone pilot was sick, and then there was another commitment. Anyhow, just juggling schedules, and so it's now looking like it's going to be the latter half of February.
Okay.
But I keep pushing.
And then to be some way to let community
We have,
know, I guess, heads up.
I should add that I wrote an article for the Main Street for the February edition, and we're doing 2 open houses, one in Crawford Bay on March 11th and one in Rindell on the 25th. Those are Tuesdays at 7 p.m.
Pacific Coastal. Oh, I'm not going to that. 7 p.m.
On the 11th
11th and
in Crawford Bay, and then the 25th in Rindell. And we've got all of our geochem results in now, and we're having the same consultant basically do a review and an analysis of the results for us.
Okay.
Same guy that did it last year.
Continuity.
Yes.
Yeah, it's important.
Yep.
Great. Okay. And just to confirm, we didn't actually need, because we did a vote and approval of
That
that
last time.
10,000 last time.
Yeah.
Making sure. Maybe that's why your check didn't come in. No.
Well, Gary's slide gets money from different sources.
Yeah.
I've had this happen before where they're asking where the dollars are. And you just have to
Yeah.
dig
Just pop
through
them
there.
in now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have public, it looks
We
like.
do have public, and is that, sorry, I don't have my glasses on, is that
Rob,
Rob?
I think it says.
Did you have anything that you would like to
Question.
talk to the EDC about, or have any questions about?
This is
Once-
You're muted, yeah, you're muted, just in case you're talking, we can't actually hear you. No? Okay. Okay, confirmation, next meeting scheduled for March 11th. We've got 2 meetings on March 11th already then.
And if that works, that's before our final budget. And so if we wanted to change the budget, what we like to have, like our March board meeting is the 20th. And we'll approve the budget either on the 20th, or if we disagree, we'll have to hold a special meeting because we must approve it in March. So what's worked easy, that's lots of time, whether we have minutes or anything together or not. We'll have an opportunity just by email. I can email in and say add or change this or that. So
Okay.
that would be the time to finalize any budgets.
March 11th. Yeah, so at this point, there doesn't seem to be any conflict, because we have that other meeting in the evening, but
Yeah.
at 2 p.m.
But then we'll be on,
Do you want to,
we'll be
Sooner,
matching
Gary?
Nelson time by then? Yeah, daylight savings the 9th changes, March 9th. So.
Yep.
Our time doesn't change here.
No, so
No.
I'm just, I
Neither
have
does
to,
Robin's.
I gotta put MSTPDT so that I don't get tripped. All right.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming.
Thank you, Gina.
Nice to see you all. Happy, January 2025.
Calling for adjournment, I didn't look
I'm
at the time
gonna
there.
call for adjournment at 3:09.
So-called.
Okay. And hopefully we won't see you in March. Hopefully we get to see you before March.
Possibly. We're gonna do a survey, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robin.
Thanks,
Robin.
everyone.
See you Thursday, I guess.
Yep.